Welcome back to the Social Media Millionaire Podcast. This is episode 5, and we're going to be going over the different content lenses. And this is one of the most important episodes that you can listen to because this is how, as a content creator and business owner, this will make you the most money.
This is the Social Media Millionaire Podcast, where we are shaping the new era of millionaires. This podcast is the first podcast exclusively for the modern CEO who is scaling $1 million, dare I say, $1 billion businesses with organic social media. So today we're going to unpack the different content lenses and we're going to unveil our content process that actually will make you money. So I could say that this is part 2 to the $1 million content plan, but we're really going to just be unpacking what these different lenses are, a little bit more of the psychology behind the strategy, and really an overview as to why this is effective. I think understanding the why and the overview of the overall strategy is super, super important so that you can carry that implementation in your content a little bit easier. When you understand why you're doing things, you're no longer just following someone else's strategy. You're able to really make it your own and really start to leverage the psychology and all of that to really make your content be repetitively converting for you.
And just a little fun stat on that. You learn, but by reading something, you learn about 30% about a subject. By hearing it, you learn 50% is learned by hearing and seeing it. And then like 90% of what you learn about is done by doing. So right now you're going to be hearing it, you're going to grasp a lot of this material, but you need to go out after this podcast and you need to implement all of it.
100%. So to dive into a little bit of the psych behind the content lenses, we know that a purchase decision is 80% emotional and only 20% logical. So for most people, what they're told in the marketing space is to add value, educate, inspire, right? What does that actually mean? And the thing is that just adding value and educating, your Instagram becomes an encyclopedia. Your WikiHow style content does not actually create the gap that makes people want to pay you. So all you're doing with that educational content is trying to appeal to the logical side. Well, that's only 20% of the purchase decision. And so the content lenses allow you to carry that value and information in a way that's actually leveraging sales psychology so that you can tap into the emotional side of that decision as well, and also be super integrity led with your sales because you're not selling to people that don't need it, right? The way that these lenses work is you are specifically attracting and connecting with people that are exhibiting a specific symptom. So that's how this actually works. Now, beyond that, there is a lot more to unpack as far as how sales psych plays a role in these different lenses and how you can leverage them in different ways. That's something that we unveil more fully inside of the Social Media Millionaire Content Mastery program, but we're going to give you a little bit of an overview here that you can take and, like Soren said, start implementing in your content today. So utilizing the 3 lenses in your content, following the flow that we uncovered in the last episode, does 3 things for you, right? So number 1, it warms and nurtures leads through the customer journey. It speaks to people at different levels of business. And that's one of the number 1 questions that we actually get is, I have different programs or offers that speak to different levels of people or different levels of business owners. How do I talk to these different audiences within my audience? And utilizing the lenses allows you to do that seamlessly without having to think about it. And then number 3, it allows you to speak to the 4 different types of buyers because each of them tend to be a little bit more activated by these different lenses. So problem-aware content, let's start there. So this is the first lens and tends to be very activating and attractive. So when you are posting problem-aware content, that tends to be the content that goes a little bit more viral. Agitation content can have the same effect, but problem-aware, especially on TikTok, tends to do really well as terms of outreach.
What's a really good example of problem-aware content?
Some videos that I've created that you guys have probably seen that are problem-aware videos are specifically like the videos that pertain to Pinterest that are making people aware that they're missing out on a lot of traffic and potential income for their business by not leveraging that platform in their strategy.
So you're taking something that could benefit them or help them in a way that they didn't know about, and you're making that aware to them.
Right, but it goes deeper than that. So so you're not just presenting a different option, but you're also challenging their thinking and what they've believed to be the main way or helpful. So it's not just taking and saying, hey, you could do this. It's taking what they've believed to be true, disproving that, and then presenting an option. And the thing is that a lot of people where they get this wrong, and I've seen a rush of anti-problem aware content in the space recently, that's still problem aware content. They've just decided that that's their villain. So the thing is that where people get this wrong, they just tell people what their problem is. They just kind of make people feel bad and then they leave them hanging. The key with this is to actually provide a solution, provide an aha moment for your audience, which actually taps into something that we've talked a lot about on here, which is commonly referred to as the feel-good factor in sales psychology. Essentially, people get a hit of dopamine when aha moment. So when you can kind of connect the dots for somebody on something that they've been struggling with or disprove something that they believed and give them a new solution, you actually create that feel-good factor. And so what you do is you actually create content that is super duper bingeable, makes people want to consume more of your content by doing that. So then the next lens is agitation. And this is like a super easy example of this is these are the most common mistakes that you're making in your business, or speaking out against like an industry norm that you disagree with.
For example, taking a stance on something one way or another. A really great example of this is if you've ever, and I mean ever, seen a politician. They take a stance on something, 50% agree, 50% disagree.
Right. And this is where the polarizing content comes in. So that's your agitation. You're really just coming down on one side of an issue. But again, you want to do this tastefully. Same with problem aware content. You don't want to just make your audience feel like garbage. You want to present a solution, present an alternative route. And so you'll find that agitational content, you know if you're doing it right because you'll start getting negative comments. And I made a video about that recently and people were really, really triggered by it. I was basically saying that if you weren't getting any hate comments, you're probably also not making any money. But the thing is that's kind of true. If you aren't getting any hate comments, then you are not taking a stance on what you believe in. You're not leaning into your morals and values. You're not defying the regular flow of the industry. You're not disrupting anything. Like I responded back to one of the stitches, I don't think that's as big of a flex as you think it is. Not taking a stance, never making any waves, never standing for what you believe in.
As a once upon a time famous person once said, if you don't stand for anything, what will you fall for?
Fall for everything. And the thing is like with agitational content, again, the intention is not to be polarizing. The intention is not to cause conflict. That's just a byproduct of you taking a stance as to what you actually believe in. And we know that people want to buy from businesses that have similar values. People want to work with people that they see themselves in. And although you will polarize a good 50%, you're really going to be calling in and attracting the people that are aligned with you. And so I would argue that agitational content is probably the most important of the three lenses because you're going to attract people that are truly aligned with you and dissuade people from working with you that would not be aligned with you. The next lens then is solution content. So this is probably the content that I create the most of, which is where you lead with a result or an outcome. Now, again, with all of these, you really want to make sure that you're doing it tastefully. So when you're doing solution content, specifically for those of you that are in the business space where a lot of the wins that you're sharing tend to be monetary, you want to make sure that you're always pairing that monetary win with an insight, right? You want to be transparent in what actually led to that win, where that person started, where you started, what they actually did to implement to achieve that win. So a good example of solution lens content is again with what we post on our socials all the time. This is how a client went from X amount per month to X amount per month, right? That's a solution lens video. So what we're doing is we're leading with the result and then providing information or the outcome. Now, Solution content can still be agitational. It can still be a bit problem aware, right? You can bring different elements of these different lenses into the videos by leading with a result, or leading with your stance on something, or leading with disproving a belief that your audience tends to have. So let's circle back to the strategy behind each of these different lenses now that we've discussed them a little bit. So warming and nurturing leads is the first point. So as you move through the process, again, that we laid out in the previous episode, as you take someone from they find you in a problem aware video, then they binge your content, they watch an agitational video, they watch a solution video, you're bringing them through the buying process and warming them along that journey. You connect with them in the beginning with their symptom, with what they're going through. You change their perspective, you showcase why you believe what you believe, and then you showcase a result on that same topic, right? Then when it comes to speaking to people at different levels of business. So again, like I shared, this is one of the things that people ask us the most, and you do it automatically through leveraging these 3 different lenses in your content. So problem aware content, who does that tend to speak to? That tends to speak to people that are beginners, people that are at a more foundational understanding of what it is that you're talking about. People that are at an agitational level, those tend to be more intermediate people, right? They have enough knowledge and they're taking enough action to be able to make a mistake, if that's what you're speaking to. You're able to connect with them on that level because they've actually implemented, they've started moving on what you're actually talking about. And then your solution lens content, that tends to speak to a higher level of person in your audience, because people at that level, they are aware they have a problem, they have taken action, they've been doing it for a period of time, and they're just looking for an outcome, right? They don't need to be made aware and then made aware of your stance, right? They're farther along that process. They just want the information. And so that's going to, one, appeal more so to your driver buyers, but it's also going to make sure that you're connecting with people that are at that higher level as well. So 3 birds, 1 stone. And then you also, again, speak to the 4 different buyer types. So each of these different lenses tends to be more attractive to the different types of buyers and tends to be more activating for them. So you also then have that psychology backing in your content strategy. You're ensuring that you're selling to people the way that they want to be sold to, speaking to them, and providing them with the information that they would actually need to make a purchase decision based off of the type of buyer that they are. And because we know that people tend to have a dominant buyer type, but also have elements of the other types of buyers within them, when they're binging your content and they're watching problem aware content, then they're watching agitational, then they're watching solution lens content, it's able to be nurturing for the whole person, not just for their dominant buyer type.
Well, and you have multiple ways of activating them, turning them into a customer through those different buyer types. Because even though they might watch the problem aware content, the solution is what's going to get them to buy. And by creating these different types of content, you get a twofold effect. One, for one standard idea that you can come up with, you can churn out 3 videos for that. And on top of that, as I just stated, you can activate people in different ways. You can activate different buyer types, and you can activate the same person in 3 different ways from one idea, one type of content that you can take and transform into 3 different outcomes.
Exactly. And going back to the stat that I mentioned in the very beginning, where a purchase decision is 80% emotional, 20% logical. Again, you're able to speak to the whole person. So they're able to make a very informed and ethical decision, but you're also able to tap into the emotional drivers that are going to cause them to actually pull the trigger and make that purchase.
Well, and you'll see all of these principles played out on Kenda's Instagrams, Reels, TikToks, and Stories.
Exactly. So be sure to follow us over there. And of course, my DMs are always open if you have questions. And if you want to really fully have us work with you to apply this to your business, definitely shoot me a DM so we can chat about all of our different offers and see what would be the most supportive for you and your business.
And if you love this long form content, be sure to find Kenda Laney over on YouTube as well.
For sure. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, preferably a nice one. That would be great. And we'll see you in the next episode.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.